8, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're coming to you live from Abuja, where the World Pension Summit in Africa is scheduled to hold. Well, now we're joined by Harry Smorenberg, who is also chairman of the World Pension Summit. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, well, yes, indeed, a lot will be focused on today, but what would your message be? What would you be looking to communicate to those who will be participating in this summit today and tomorrow?
Well, the agenda for the pension and market development for Africa is, challenging. And I think this is a first step on which we provide a platform where we can exchange truly expertise from many African countries, but also from outside Africa. Because in my view, Africa can really leapfrog on the development taking place already in other countries. And by learning and by sharing best practices, I think Africa can really set a new pace and perhaps even be a leader in social security and pension market development in the near future.
So there'll be a lot of messages around strengthening the social security system?
Absolutely. Of course, that's the base. I mean, securing people for sufficient comfort on illness, unemployment, prevent poverty, I think that's the base where it starts. It's all about managing people and having equal rights and avoid social unrest because of not the right situation, having not the right situations in countries. On top of that, I think pension market development is crucial because as people grow older and probably will work longer, people have to realize they have to save money for their future and their pensions.
And so that is beginning to happen here in Africa, and there's still issues of credibility, of transparency. What are some of the things that you think they can put in place to ensure that a lot more people buy in? For instance, in Nigeria, we still have a very young market. 6 million people who we understand have bought into the scheme out of a workforce of about 15 million.
Yeah.
What else do you think could be done to ensure that this 44 million or so more people quickly, come on board?
Right. Well, I think that's the biggest challenge. And I'm happy to see that out of these 6 million people, a lot of young people participate. And I think that's a good starting point. And all has got to do with education, understanding that, saving money for later is important. But even in the West, where I come from, the Netherlands, for instance, people start thinking about their pensions when they are 45, 50. And they start realizing, oh, did I save enough? Far too late, far too late. So if we can educate people, and that's where financial literacy comes in, and have kids at school understand what is interest, what is the effect of inflation, for instance, on your savings. Of course, these are complex things to understand, but if they learn young what the effects are of your savings, I think...
So you think we have to start that early? I mean, even
Absolutely.
With kids in school?
Yeah, I would call that personal economy. So it's a topic, a subject at school that you should teach. Now, how to spend money, how to budget, how to set money aside, what the effects are of when you put money aside, how you can secure that money, what kind of institutions can secure that, what are the instruments. Perhaps very simple, basic first steps, but then each year at school and also on further education, take that topic along to give that understanding.
So a lot depends on literacy, because we're also wondering we also have a very huge informal market, by the way, and I think that's typical of Africa as of now.
Yeah.
How does the present scheme that is being marketed, at least being used here in Nigeria, how does it cover the informal market as well, or do you think that they're just going to be excluded?
No. I think this is a first good start, but I think that will be followed up, and I think a crucial part will be the participation of the employers. I think the employee benefits, where pension is part of it, should be cherished more and should be put on the agenda of the employers. I think it will be essential, also in due course here in Africa, that labor is scarce and will become scarce. So you have to cherish your assets, your people that are working for you. And so you should also try to prepare for them a valuable pension build-up. So that's also a crucial one.
Well, is it possible for some employee to have 2 PFAs?
It is difficult. I think, of course, it's always a trade-off on the investment side and the value you see cherishing your staff and your employees. But I think what I see in other countries, with the flexibility of these systems, they can coexist.
Is it possible, and would you advise that For instance, we have people asking, can they use 2 PFAs to manage one account?
Well, it's about, well, that's technology to some part. It's about, getting the insights and also the alignment of those two funds. So people should be able to, perhaps virtually or physically, have control of these two funds as well. So it's about transparency and how they can coexist. But in the Western European countries, there are various people who are having several pension build-ups with several funds. So that's possible. And the essence is, of course, how can you aggregate that information to the individual, to the participant, in order to have them having control of the insights on their financial position.
Part of the challenge they also have, when they move from one organization to the other, people are concerned, how will they get the monies contributed to when they were in the former organization to the new one?
Well, I think that's a very crucial point. And we should comfort people with that. And I think the technology is there. It's of course, the market is about competition, but also about coexistence. So you should work together and migrate these funds from one to the other. So portability of pension funds is crucial. And I think that's the biggest challenge there is.
It looks like it's pretty complex. I mean, by itself, the contributory pension scheme has a lot of issues in terms of, people trying to understand what exactly it's about and how it affects them.
Right.
But then there's also a group of people who it doesn't seem to cover. For instance, we talked about literacy levels, how, this is highly dependent on literacy levels and how we should start from, schools. But then we also have people who are not in schools. A large majority of the population not in schools and maybe doing some kind of work, artisans and what have you. Do you think that there is a future, there's a way that they can also be covered by this new pension scheme?
Well, absolutely. And if I can compare that to Europe, we have a lot of self-employed people also in the Western market in Europe. They were not covered. They had to save themselves. And of course, they forgot about it. They spent the money more easily than saving that for some other date in their lives. So actually now pension funds are offering special programs for self-employed people. And I think that will be the trend here as well, because it's a societal role, it's an obligation also from the government, from the employers' organizations, from all the actors in the social field to ensure that people are saving money for later. I think, I'm from Holland and we have a compulsory system, we have a mandatory system. We have to join the pension funds, and people start complaining in our country, why? I want to be in control of my own destination and I want to be secure myself and have the money within my own feasibility to use it. But in Holland that's not possible. Like in Singapore, that's not possible. When you save money, it's saved there and it's saved for later for the pension date. And I think that mandatory element helps people, because people tend to spend money for their kids, for incidental expenses, and there goes your pension money.
Do you with issues like this, what comes to mind is the number of years you have actually practiced this in Holland, 50 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
And 10 years in Nigeria. Take us through the teething problems you encountered when you started this in Holland.
Well, it was also a kind of what we call massage process. People have to get adjusted to the system. Employees had to, actually the same like in Nigeria, employees had to cooperate and people had questions. We started out with a very generous system, promising almost 70-80% of the last earned wage when you turn 65. On average now it has come down to 30-50%. So things change, and you have to adjust the system accordingly, looking at the number of participants, looking at the investment results, looking at what's feasible from a savings perspective. But then again, you have a base of awareness, and 50 years in the Netherlands has given us a very well-funded system, over 1,200 billion euro asset under management, so it makes us one of the bigger investors in the world as well. But people are getting older, so you see now already the disinvestment out of the pension pot. So people start, using the money to live longer, actually. So we have seen this glide path and development, and I predict that Nigeria, but also other African countries, will go through the same phase, and that's why we organized the World Pension Summit, because it's not just the Dutch system, but also in the UK, in Norway, in Singapore. Those elements are traditionally the same. And I think Africa and also Nigeria can leapfrog of the developments and the knowledge of these developments. And by discussing and debating the specifics on that, and that's what we're going to do the next 2 days, I think we can contribute.
Is it the same, sorry, Timlin, is it the same spread you have for male and females in your country? Because some would say 18 for the males and 15 for the females. We're talking about the contributory pension.
No, it's all similar. We are
It's all
equal.
similar,
Yeah,
equal.
we're equal. Yeah. Men and women are equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any case while you were going through your teaching stage where people said, look, I want to be able to determine or have a say in how my pension is being invested? How did you deal with that?
Well, actually, that's very good that you asked that question. We had a debate, I think, 2 years ago in the Netherlands. And on the pension investment boards, we have a pensioner now. So in every board, we have a representation of the pensioners themselves. So there are also the social parties involved, like unions, employers, employees, but also those who have pensioned now, so those who are older than 65 in the Netherlands. So we have a very nice spread of stakeholders, so to speak, in the investment portfolio. So I think that's very good because especially when you have a graying society like in Europe, people are feared that, their pensions will be eroded because the young people refuse to contribute more for them because it's, of course, balancing the generations, so to speak.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back to talk a few more things on this World Pension Summit. So join us again.